mindset. Ay, back with a vengeance, back on the grinds, back to the business. Ay, God is my witness, they watching my moves like shows they binging. Ay, best keep distance, all of my haters send best of wishes. I get to the bag with the quickness, no I don't need no assistance. Oh, yeah, no playing it safe. I said let's get it, you say not today. What can I say? If you ain't gon' go for it, get out the way. Yeah, got no time to waste. Can't be with me if you not at my pace. You not at my level, you not in my race. One foot on the gas, I'm pushing the brakes. You dancing with the devil, there's no recital. I'm killing competition, ain't no revival. I shoot it to kill it, I'm aiming for vitals. I'm showing no mercy when facing my rivals. Snakes in the grass, they getting exposed. I know they be lurking, I'm watching them close. Acting like friends, but really they foes. Saw they be scheming and said adios. Yeah. Get it, don't mindset. I gotta get it, don't mindset. I gotta get it, don't mindset.
If Barber is the Alabama roller coaster, does that make Mid-Ohio the Bucking roller coaster? Well, we're here live on RaceSpotTV once more for round 5 action in the iRacing IndyCar Open Series. 4 races are done, still plenty of championship action to go. Delighted to have your company once more on a Monday evening here, wherever you are in the world. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Arjuna Kenkipati. Delighted to be joined, as always, by my Powerslide Motorsports teammate Andrew Kinsella in the RaceSpotTV commentary booth. You can follow along with live timing and scoring powered by our partners at ATVO by heading to RaceSpot.tv/timing2. Follow along with your favorite team and driver. Well, Andrew, last time it was short oval racing, and yes, it was a little bit stop and start, plenty of cautions to bring the action to a standstill at times, but we saw some great racing strategy playing out with drivers taking advantage of those caution periods. This, though, a totally different sort of race.
Iowa had just about a little bit of everything, Arjuna, but definitely Mid-Ohio, completely different animal compared to Iowa. This is a fast-flowing road course where you're going to see a lot of rhythm, a lot of potential strategy with some different tire strategies, particularly with some different fuel numbers, and then just a lot of precision driving that is going to be needed to handle the race here today at Mid-Ohio.
You compare it to Road America, the other American road course that we visited so far in technically 2022 season 1. Yes, that happened back in 2021, but that was a lot flatter, especially when it comes to the traction zones. Here it's a little bit harder, especially late in the run. We are going to see drivers really struggling with those rear tires and power down. Here's a look at how the championship is shaking up as we approach the halfway marker of the championship. Adam Blocker sits on top, but he's only 3 points in front of Hugo Olsen. Power slide 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then you get down to Jesper Orman in 5th. It would be a power slide 1 through 5. We don't want to be too biased here, Andrew. The thing, though, is a couple of years ago, iRacing made this a series where both the road and oval iRatings came into play. For someone like Brian Carey, who hasn't had as much time doing oval races, official oval races, he doesn't get those opportunities to get good championship points in the 6 oval weeks that we have. These are races he needs to maximize.
Absolutely. Brian is a driver that hasn't necessarily done as many of the oval tracks as many of these other drivers, and it showed where he just didn't make this top split last week at Iowa, and it's hurt him in this drivers championship. So definitely something to keep aware of in this championship is the different iRatings of all of these drivers, and potentially them missing out on some top points just because of their iRating. So definitely something to keep aware of. But as you mentioned, huge domination from Adam Blocker, Hugo Olsen, Robert Malechka, and Alexander Van der Sant at the front. Jesper Orman already almost 200 points behind Adam Blocker. So the power slide quartet at the front are really starting to run away with this a little bit. But don't forget, we do have those drop weeks. So some of this advantage will start to go away and compact just a little bit as this season goes on. So it's not going to be a cakewalk necessarily for any of these power slide drivers.
And let's talk then a little bit about our host here tonight. Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in Lexington, Ohio, just under 2.5 miles, 3.5 kilometers in length. And it's a track, Andrew, with 136 feet of elevation change. Of note, for those who are familiar with this track in the real world, the start zone isn't where it is in the real life race, where they'll start on that long back straightaway. Instead, we start on that pit straight. Going to be the scene of plenty of chaos. But here, really, like I said, elevation change going to be crucial. Managing tires, even more important.
Absolutely, particularly on the back half of the track. You get so much elevation change and so much off-camber corners where, especially in the traction zones, it's going to be really important not to spin the tires, keep those tires underneath them for the majority of the stint, and it's going to be very telling as we get on towards the ends of these stints who's taken care of their tires and who hasn't here.
Well, I can tell you that qualifying still has about 90 seconds left on the clock, so plenty of time, but all the drivers have done their qualifying laps, so the field is set. We'll get you to the running order in a couple of moments' time. I want to talk then about what we've got in store for us, Andrew, here today. 45 laps in length in terms of the race distance. 24 laps is the fuel window. There's about a 3-second delta over the course of a stint when it comes to the different sort of runs that you can make. Having said that, looks like we're going gridding already. Let's go trackside then here at Mid-Ohio to take a look at our starting grid for round 5 in the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. Adam Blocker puts it on pole, a 106.537, almost 2/10 quicker than the Canadian Adam Crane, who will line up on the outside of the front row. The two strongest drivers in terms of iRating at the top of the qualifying standings. Alexander Van der Sant and Brian Carey line up alongside one another, the two teammates, while Rashad Craig back in 5th. Great qualifying for him. Justin Hess makes sit 4 power slide drivers in the first 3 rows. David Porcelli, Will Lyon alongside one another on row number 4 with Adriano Pinheiro and Robert Malechka rounding out the top 10. Danilo Piazza and Doriano Ricciuti 11th and 12th positions. RaceSpot's own Lorenzo Bonder qualifies back in 13th. Hopefully it's not unlucky number 13, given what we saw for him at Spa-Francorchamps. Mitchell Welko alongside 1 second separating basically first through 15th position, where Cesar Manzato lines up alongside the New York native Andrew Marquez. Andrew Wood, Nico Java rode 9 while completing the top 20. It's Arturo Amaro and Eric Miller. Final driver setting a qualifying lap time, Robin Glennox with AJ Musselman rounding out the 22 cars ready to rumble here in Ohio. We'll get back to that point now, Andrew. Strategy here, 45 lap race, fuel window 23, 24, 25 laps, but because those tires wear out, and given that the red tire is marginally faster over the run, we'd expect drivers to likely stay on the red tire for the entirety of the race. We may see a couple of bold souls, though, elect to go on the black and try something different.
Yeah, there's definitely potential to try something different. The black is a slower tire, but it is also the more reliable tire, especially towards the end of the stint. But the other thing to keep in mind is because we have this 45 lap race, but again, a 25 lap fuel window, look at potential undercuts and overcuts. So people potentially coming in as soon as lap 20 and as late as lap 25. That's where a lot of the strategy is going to play out here, I think, today, Arjuna.
And like we mentioned earlier, we don't start on the back straight. We start right here as we work our way through the final corner. Adam Blocker gets the power down. We're racing in round 5. Bit of a checkup on the inside line as they try and squeeze themselves onto the throttle. Gently she goes through turn number 1, safely at least for the top 8 cars. A couple of cars kicking up the grass, kicking up some cones as well. 3 abreast. Looks like one of the black cars in the middle has David Porcelli trying to dive down the inside. Through the keyhole they'll go, safely through entirety of the 22 car field, now storming their way down the back straightaway in towards China Beach. Turn 4 has seen plenty of chaos, plenty of carnage in the past. Will we see that this time around? David Porcelli coming under fire from the likes of Will Lyon and Rashad Craig. Somehow, Andrew, we're still clean for 22 cars.
Absolutely incredible. We did have one small incident. Nico Yarva did put it a little bit sideways on the exit of the keyhole, but he recovered very nicely and is back going. So we do have 22 drivers completing this lap 1 by the looks of it so far, although we do have a number of drivers getting a little bit out of shape coming through Thunder Valley here. But for these leaders, really good start, really strong start for the power side drivers, as well for Adam Crane. It was very important that he keep Alexander Van de Sande and Brian Carey behind him on this start, and he's done a good job of doing that.
Yeah, it just means that he'll have the opportunity to try and fight with Adam Blocker. We've seen those two come to blows before. Will they come together once again? Lap 1 in the books, a long race distance. Just about 55 minutes this race if we have no major drama. Adam Crane 6/10 behind the race leader Adam Blocker. Van de Sande, Carey and Hess through the top 5. No changes there. Piazza on the push to pass, back in 11th position as he chases down Robert Malechka. Look at this though. Both drivers on the push to pass. Malechka trying to defend. He'll have the long way around, which gives him the inside in towards turn number 5. He has to concede from now. Plenty of passing back in the pack though. Rashad Craig did get swarmed on that start. He's down 3 positions. And Andrew, from a driver's perspective, talk to us about setting up the car for a track like this with so much elevation change.
Yeah, one of the things you really need to concentrate on a track like this is rear end stability, especially out of some of these corners like through Thunder Valley here. The exits are so treacherous. You really need to have a rear end that's sort of planted on the ground. But the flip side of that is you also need the car to turn, because you have so many turns that are sort of linked up. You need the car to be able to change directions really well. So it's almost a catch-22 where they want that rear end stability with high downforce, sort of a compliant rear end, but still having to find a way to make the car turn really easily. And it's definitely a balancing act for all the engineers here in this field today.
And that's what happened to Nico Java, just on the power a little bit too aggressively, slides the rear end out and into the grass for Java, who still gathered it up in time to rejoin back in 21st position. So he hasn't dropped to the very tail of the field. He has dropped, though, down 3 positions from where he qualified. It's also a track, Andrew, where passing is not easy. You're going to rely on that 60 to 70 horsepower burst that the push to pass gives you over the course of the race distance. So rationing it out and knowing when to use it will be important.
It's incredibly important to figure out exactly when you use the push to pass, because you really have to have that run coming out of the keyhole to really make it work. And it's so hard to time, because if you're a tenth or two off, in your timing. So that's 10, 20 feet off in terms of your spacing. You might not get the move done because the back straightaway, while it's the longest straightaway on the track, is a very short back straight, and you barely get to the top of your rev range. So it's very, very important to time these well and to ration them so that you have them at the end of the race where the tires will start to go away. You might be able to take advantage of someone making a mistake, especially coming out of a big power down zone like that keyhole.
Couple of breakaways beginning to form here. Second place now separated from the final step of the podium by 2 seconds. That's on the left-hand side of your screen, right side of the screen. Rashad Craig back in the pack. Also looks like Robert Malechka might be coming under fire from Doriano Ricciuti. Not an easy start for Malechka. We know just how strong Robert is when it comes to the ovals. He's made it 2 for 2 to start off the 2022 Indy Elite Series, first at Michigan winning, and then just yesterday winning at Iowa, aided by a couple of cautions that played out first not in his favor, then in his favor, but that's the way it goes. And that's what we love about IndyCar, Andrew. We say it time and time again. You can't just be good at one form of racing. You have to be able to adapt across of different disciplines of motorsport.
Absolutely, and Robert will be the first to tell you that road racing is not necessarily his strong point, but it's definitely something that he's actively learning and trying to improve on, and we've seen progress already so far this year. This race not going particularly well for Malechka. He's lost a couple of positions here. Definitely not the start that he was probably looking for, but yeah, it's definitely a case where you need to learn and you need to be patient, and you're always learning at both disciplines, and it really keeps you busy, and it really keeps you challenged no matter what type of track that you're on.
Even within your sub-disciplines, road and oval, you've then got sub-disciplines, street courses, for example, on the roadside compared to these purpose-built facilities. On the ovals, of course, your speedways, your short ovals, really is the most challenging test for drivers. And when you talk to someone like Romain Grosjean, he doesn't just enjoy the challenge that presents, but the fact that it's a spec machinery across of the entire field. Yes, there's things you can do to make your car go faster, but it's not like in Formula One where, you know, Romain Grosjean struggled for 3 years in the Haas. He can fight right at the front. Wouldn't be shocked to see Mr. Grosjean winning his first race now with Andretti in 2022. Already 5 laps in the book, so about a fifth of the way through the fuel run. Adam Crane on the button to try and close the gap to Blocker, which is up to 1.5 seconds. Van der Sant still slipping further. He's 4 seconds adrift from the race lead. Rashad Craig got a good run out of the keyhole. He's closing up on Will Line. Don't think he's going to be able to get the move done just yet. Mitchell Welker also on the button. One thing as well that a track like this is going to reward is patience, setting up a move, and really understanding, Andrew, where another driver is weak.
Absolutely, and it's one of those tracks where you also need to take advantage of mistakes. So one of the things that we already saw early on with Nico Jarva was that mistake coming out of the keyhole. So that's not going to get any less common the farther we go on. As we see Malechka out into the grass at the carousel here.
I think that was instigated with Danilo Piazza having his own moment as well. We'll get a look at the replay in a moment's time, but Cesar Manzato is now going to squabble with Malechka in towards turn 1. Side by side doesn't work there. You can run yourself off into the grass. Andrew Wood in the popcorn seat might want to have a lob at this one too. God, that's what you were saying, Andrew, just a moment ago. You got to take advantage of other people's mistakes. I think Robert just got a little bit caught out there with what happened with the other car, and we'll take a look in just a few moments' time, because I think Andrew Wood on the button wants to get past Manzado down this back straightaway.
Yeah, it's one thing to be hot lapping around a track like Mid-Ohio, but it's an entirely different thing to be in close contact with so many other cars, especially like what we're seeing in the midfield right now, like right around where Malechka was. It's incredibly busy in the car trying to not only keep up with a track like Mid-Ohio that's so technical, but also keep track of what everyone else around you is doing. So it's very easy to get caught out, make small mistakes, and it's just here we have the replay here, and Malechka, he just gets in a little too deep, I think.
I think we're not looking at the right replay.
Yeah, that's definitely not the right replay. The replay machine is a little bit broken right now. We'll get back to it, and hopefully it'll be fixed by the next time, Arjuna.
Yeah, hopefully the next time it cues itself up to the right part. But I do think it was not an entirely self-inflicted mistake from Malechka. Let's see if we've got the replay now.
Oh my!
Yeah, we're going to have to wait for that one. It looks like Wood and Manzato have come to blows, heading down into the keyhole section. And my oh my, damage on Manzato. Rear wing has gone flying. Let's go ahead then and straight away take a look at what happened between these two cars. And then we'll get a look at what happened down into... Oh! That's Andrew Wood just missing the braking zone.
Yeah, he was never making that corner. That was 100% Andrew Wood's mistake here. He just gets in way too deep, loses track of the braking zone, and Manzato was doing absolutely nothing wrong. So unfortunate incident there for Manzato. And yeah, I know Wood didn't do that intentionally, but definitely a big mistake. So here's what happened here. So it looks like it was...
That's an unsafe rejoin.
Yes.
Power slide bias, yes, but there's not much that Robert did wrong there. I also would say, it's not like Danilo could do much in this situation. Watch on board. You know, once you're in the grass, Andrew, you're very limited in terms of your control of the car. He just does a good job to avoid spinning as he comes back onto the track. Yeah.
Danilo was a passenger just as much as Malechka was a victim there. He definitely wasn't intending to rejoin like that by any stretch of the imagination, but the grass is so slick here, you just can't do anything else but rejoin where you are rejoining here. He did a great job to actually get the car gathered up again at all, and yeah, I don't even think that they made contact, Arjun. I think that Malechka just, as he was avoiding him, just had to go too far to the outside, and yeah, there's just no grip out there as well. The track falls away a little bit, so he just basically had to go out in the grass at that point.
Yep, no, I think that's what happened there. Unfortunate for sure, but it just happens that way. There might have been a space, but Rob just trying to avoid any sort of contact. Not much he could do when he was trying to avoid the contact. He's now slipped back to 14th. This might be one of the drop weeks. And that's something you mentioned earlier, Andrew. It's a 12-week championship, but only the best 8 of your points totals actually count for the championship. So a bad result here might not be the worst for Robert, because it's always likely that the ovals are going to be where he makes the most points across the 12 weeks.
Absolutely, but on the flip side, you don't want to turn it into a season like Brandon Trano has, where the results sort of snowball into bad results after bad results. So it's definitely the case where you don't want to sweat a bad result here too much, but you also want to turn it around the next week if you're Robert Malechka.
Will Lyon and David Porcelli looking closer to me. No, that's Justin Hess and David Porcelli. Hess is about 7/10 back from Brian Carey. And while Van der Sant has been slipping back bit by bit, 3.5 seconds back from Adam Crane, Brian Carey now a further 2 seconds. He's had a moment this lap. He's down about 0.6 of a second from the average lap that he's been doing. Same situation for Adam Crane in second, who finds himself now almost 3 full seconds away from the race leader, Adam Blocker, who continues to stretch his legs. And while Crane has used 3 of his push-to-passes so far... Oh, Mitchell Welker pointed in the wrong direction. 360 no-scope there for the number 11 car. And I think once more, this was not self-inflicted. I think there was something that went on with another car. Let's see if we can pick it up. I think it starts with... Oh no, that's Lorenzo Bonda, who tries to avoid Mitchell Welker. He just lights up the rear tires.
Yeah, that corner there, that last corner is so tricky. You're coming over a crest basically just as you're hitting the throttle, so the weight of the car is shifting right onto those rear wheels, and it's so easy to light them up, just like Mitchell Welker does. Especially as these tires are going off, we're going to see more and more cars doing stuff like this. And Welker does a great job of keeping the car off of other cars and then getting it pointed straight. So nice bit of driving there from Mitchell Welker, but his tires are not going to be happy after that one, Arjuna.
And it's compounded by the fact that he's currently on those red Mach tires, which we did think, now halfway into the fuel run, at this point, this is where the primary tires would just start to be a little bit better. We haven't talked about the weather just yet today. 24 degrees in the air, 36 down on the track itself. 10-kilometer-an-hour gusts of winds, not really going to do too much given the level of downforce that you throw onto these cars on the road courses. We are at 2:40 p.m. though, and that's one thing that I want to kind of point out here, because the way it works is just like in the real world, Andrew, when you get, further in the day, temperatures start to cool off. You'll see the track get baked that little bit less. We'll likely see in a 45-lap race, drivers do 22 laps in stint number 1 and 23 in stint number 2.
Yeah, and I do think that there is potential to go even shorter than that. We were talking to Lorenzo, and he didn't like the prospect of being on the tires for so long on the last stint, but I agree with you. I think that those temperatures are going to drop, and as the temperatures drop, I think that we're going to get a little bit more forgiveness in these red tires as this race goes on. As well, the track itself is going to rubber up as well, Arjuna, so that means that there's going to be a little bit different grip pattern, and I do think that that's going to allow maybe a little bit more of an undercut strategy to work here. It'll be interesting, though, to see if any of these drivers actually try that, maybe come in at that lap 20, lap 21 area.
Riding on board with Rashad Craig, who's now found himself tucking up behind Will Lyon, who has closed the gap on David Porcelli. Of course, Justin Hess, great drive for him last time we were on the road courses. At Spa-Francorchamps, finished on the podium. This time around, feeling the pressure as on the button, trying to defend. Again, it's not just push to pass, it is push to boost, push to defend. However you want to use it, you find yourself just craving that extra power from time to time. Hess, though, just does not look that comfortable with the wear of his tires right now.
Yeah, and we mentioned this a little bit at Belgium as well in Spa. Hess being new or new-ish back to iRacing and really starting to get serious about iRacing again, that's one of the things that you really have to adapt to. It is the tire wear, especially in this car, and especially at a track like Mid-Ohio on these red tires. This is probably going to be the longest stint that he's run on the red tires to date here in this race. So it's definitely the case where you need to make sure that you're putting in the laps in practice, and it just takes time to understand what these tires do over the course of a run. So with Hess struggling, I can definitely understand why he is just a little bit here.
Current fastest lap of the race was Adam Blocker with a 107.568. That was not last time around. The pace has dropped off almost a full second for him. 108.481. That compares to a 108.842, for Adam Crane. Last time, Van der Sant did a 6.14. So he's a little bit quicker at this stage of the run. 14 laps into the race. Might start to see the 2.5 seconds that separate second and third come down bit by bit. I tell you what, though, comfortable doesn't emphasize what David Porcelli is feeling right now. Look at him. That's not a place to make a pass happen, but he was thinking about the lunge.
I don't know that he was thinking about the lunge, but what he's definitely doing is he's trying to pressure Hess into a mistake here, because we talked about it earlier. Taking advantage of mistakes is definitely something that you have to do here at Mid-Ohio, but also creating mistakes with your driving. So putting that type of pressure on a driver like Justin Hess, that's exactly how you're going to create the driver in front of you to make a mistake that you can take advantage of.
Oh!
Doing small lunges like this, and you see Hess, he gets off the brakes just a little bit, and it compromises his corner. Now Porcelli right back in there. He's on the push to pass, and I think that he's got a real good shot at the end of this straightaway, Arjuna.
Locked up the inside front, trying to slow the car time down in time, but to the outside heel pop coming through China Beach side by side. Justin Hess has no grip to defend, and David Porcelli tries to rip fifth away. Hess thought about trying to stick his nose down the inside of turn 6, but that is Porcelli signed, sealed, and delivered into 5th position. Justin Hess now next person in line trying to pass him might be Will Lyon. This is when we'll get the indication. How is David Porcelli saved his tires? He's now 2 seconds back from Brian Carey.
Yeah, let's see if Porcelli can sort of get back up onto the Canadian a little bit. Definitely that battle with Hess has really put them back behind the other power slide driver there. But I do think that Carey and Hess will likely be on very similar setups. So if it is the case that maybe their setup isn't preserving those rear tires as well as some of these other setups, like the one that David Porcelli is running, it could be the case that Porcelli is in fact going to quickly reel in Brian Carey here.
Justin Hess has used half of his push-to passes so far in this race, so he's now got to ration them out over the remaining 30-odd laps of this race. Not going to be the easiest things. Left-hand side of the screen, you can see how the push-to passes have cycled through. Adam Crane has used 3. The top 3 power slide drivers have refrained from getting on the button. See how if they elect to burn through them at the end, as Jacob Oster put it in our YouTube chat, might be pushed to lap record. Speaking of the lap record, we're not really that close to it. Lap record was a 105.260. That was Will Power back in 2016. So it was a long time ago. You know, we're 6 years on from that. We're almost 2 and a bit seconds slower than that lap record.
I will say that it is cool to have a real-world driver holding a lap record here in iRacing, though. But yes, you're definitely correct. The tires were also very, very different back in those
I'm
days.
talking about the real-world record. Sorry,
Oh,
Andrew.
sorry. But I do think that the world record in iRacing is actually fairly similar to that, if I'm not mistaken.
Would not be entirely surprised, and I would also not be shocked if you're right. The way the tires have developed might just mean the records now don't really hold weight when you compare it into, you know, the history books. Here comes Lorenzo Bondo, and Doriano Ricciuti was on the button. The Brazilian can't go deep as he tries to work his way up through the field. Had that brief scare with Mitchell Welker spinning in front of him. Nothing doing, at least for the time being. Battle for 11th continues. We do have a bit of a train forming. We saw, of course, Justin S being passed by David Porcelli. I don't want to call him Jarno Trulli just yet, but he's lost 1 second now to Porcelli in front. He's got Lyon, Craig, Pinheiro, and Piazza all stacked up behind him.
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of a Trulli train going on here, I think, behind Justin Hess right now. I think it's definitely the case that he's just not used to these red tires falling off the way they are. That being said, he's not letting David Porcelli get too far out in front of him just yet. So I don't know how much it is that these drivers are being held up and how much of these drivers are just sort of hanging in the draft and using the draft to their advantage. I think probably, like, you look at Will Lyon and Rashad Craig, they're probably being held up a little bit, but you look at Pinheiro and Piazza, I think that they're just sort of content to sit there and sort of let these drivers in front of them pull them around the track a little bit and save some fuel, save some tires. So definitely, I think, a little bit of some differing strategies in this pack here, Arjuna.
Gap for the race lead, up above 5 seconds, up above 5.5 seconds now. Adam Crane, though, still has been able to hold the gap to Alexander Van der Sant. Brian Carey still about where he was 3 or 4 laps ago in comparison to third as we work our way into the pit stop window. Drivers can't come down this lap around. They could, with a little bit of fuel saving, come in the next lap. I think the most likely scenario, though, is drivers at the earliest come in at the end of lap 21.
Yeah, I would say lap 20 or lap 21.
Having said that, I think Mitchell Welker's down on pit road. That's a retirement. What's happened to him?
I did not see anything happen on my screen, but yeah, I'm not sure what happened with Mitchell Welker.
I see nothing of note on the timing screen either. It looked as though maybe he took some damage. We did hear pre-race that there were some cars that were so low to the ground that if he struck the curbs here, for example, coming there through Thunder Valley, you could get some damage to the car that would affect the balance, affect the speed of the car. But that car looked okay. We'll see if we can figure out what happened there. But disappointment for Mitchell Welker, who had more disappointment yesterday in the Indy Elite Series. His debut in the series, not necessarily the biggest fan of the ovals, a very competitive road driver. We saw that at Spa-Francorchamps as well. Was doing really well, had carved his way up through the pack in towards the top 5 and then got mixed up in an incident, no fault of his own. Retired him from the race. More bad luck for him today. This is that train, though. Will Lyon really not able to apply the pressure as well as we saw David Porcelli do. That gap between Porcelli and Hess is up to 3 seconds, so you can officially say that Hess is holding them up. But I would say it's Rashad Craig who's looking more likely to make a pass happen here.
Yeah, Rashad Craig is all over the back of Will Lyon, and you can really feel Will not being able to really maximize it. Oh, no, we've got a little bit of an incident here.
That's
Arturo Amro,
who's lost his front wing as well. The keyhole has claimed yet another victim. Let's see if we can take a look at what happened to him. There was also a moment for Eric Miller that I am seeing. Still no word on Mitchell, well, he just loses, like we saw with Andrew Wood, somewhat deja vu there, and into the barriers, only a solo car incident. This is Eric Miller, though, into China Beach, and we've seen this mistake in the past in real-world competition, Andrew, locking up the inside front and sliding off into the gravel.
Yeah, and one thing I want to mention with this, Arjuna, is we've seen, or we've talked about how difficult older tires are in terms of corner exit, but corner entry is also very difficult. As the grip goes away on these tires, the braking zones really do move back a substantial amount, so you do have to spend a lot of time figuring out where it is, as we see a move here from Rashad Craig potentially.
That was good around the outside. He has used the push to pass, I think, to try and affect this one. Will Lyon thought about fighting it back, but like we saw with Hesson Porcelli, he'll concede the position for now. We are now firmly into the window. Will we see a driver go bold on the strategy, come in early, working lap 21 or 45? It's not halfway just yet, but you can make it on fuel from here to the end. Through the kink, into the final corner they come. Will we see a car down to pit lane? Doesn't look as though from this group anyone has elected to pull the button, as it were. Meanwhile, while this is going on, David Porcelli, what a drive from him to now close onto the back of Brian Carey in the draft, 8/10 back.
And I will say that both Carey and Porcelli are also starting to reel back in Alexander Van de Sande, who's fallen back off of Adam Crane just a little bit. So really strong drive from all of these drivers in the top 5, I must say. But David Porcelli, as you mentioned, definitely doing a really strong drive behind these power slide drivers, and I would even venture that he's probably a little bit faster than Brian Carey at this point as well.
Here comes Rashad Craig on Justin Hess. Did use the push to pass to try and pull alongside, not close enough to try and get the move done. All this does, though, lose these cars time, brings in the likes of Adriano Pinheiro, Danilo Piazza as well. More and more, it is breaking up any chance for Hess, Craig, and Lyon of fighting for a top 5 position. Lap 23 now. Adam Blocker has crossed the start-finish line. None of the cars in the top 5 down to pit road. Right side of the screen. Hess comes in. Lyon comes in. Not surprisingly, Justin Hess pit earliest of these cars.
No, he was definitely struggling, as we actually see a move with Adriano Pinheiro on Rashad Craig into turn 1. What a move that was from Pinheiro. That is not a place you typically pass, but I think I think Craig had a little bit of an adventurous final corner there, and the adventure isn't over, as Piazza was really close to chucking it up the inside of Rashad Craig there. But yeah, I think Craig made a small mistake through that final corner and allowed Pinheiro to really get a run down that front stretch. But turn 1 is definitely not the place you would typically pass here at Mid-Ohio.
Yeah, I think the line was what was compromised for Rashad Craig. Maybe was initially looking like he might follow the cars in front of him down to pit road. We'll get the replay up on your screen in a moment's time. You can take a look at exactly what happened there. Now watch the replay. Top of the screen, you can see Craig initially thought he'd commit. I think he might have even been on the grass. Look at the momentum that he loses, though. Instantly, Pinheiro is like, thank you very much. You talked about not taking advantage of your opportunities. That is what Pinheiro did. Adam Crane's onto pit road, so is David Porcelli, so is Rashad Craig, into the pit stop window, and we know the undercut will be powerful.
Yeah, the undercut should definitely be powerful with these red tires that almost everyone will be going on. But I want to point out 2 things here, Arjuna. There are sort of two groups of cars that have really gone past lap 23 here, and that's Blocker, Van de Sande, and Carey from the power slide stable, and then there's Pinheiro and Piazza, who were both sort of at the back of that Trulli train behind Justin Hess that we were describing earlier. And I do think that Pinheiro and Piazza really did take advantage of being where they were and saved a lot of fuel here, so that could make this next stint here just that little bit shorter.
Cold tires for Rashad Craig, and he loses out to Will Lyon. He did the hard work, got the pass done once, has to do it again. Lyon and Craig both on the button, heading down in towards turn 4. No pass forthcoming this time around. Once more, with just over 20 laps to go, we'll see Rashad Craig try and set up the opportunity to make the pass happen. Still waiting for Adam Blocker, Alexander Van de Sande, Brian Carey, Pinheiro to pit. Piazza's the one who's coming down this time around, so we thought that maybe 24 laps would be easy on fuel. 25 maybe not worth it. Interesting to see Adriano Pinheiro going one lap longer, I think he's going to be caught out here with that strategy.
I don't know about that, because I think that what Pinheiro really gains is A, time on pit road, and B, the ability to have just that little bit fresher tires come the end of this race. And if he's been doing a good job of saving some of his push-to-passes, it could really turn to his advantage as long as he comes out near the draft of the cars that he's been fighting with. I don't necessarily hate this strategy from Pinheiro.
Look at how the 20 cars still running are strewn across the racetrack. Adam Blocker works across the line for yet another lap, 25 and counting for the defending champion, who works his way up into the keyhole. This is an extraordinary stint. Van der Sant comes in this time around. Brian Carey follows his teammate in. I think Carey might have lost some ground to this train of cars as well. It'll be interesting when we talk about Brian Carey. Where does he feed out in comparison? Mainly to David Porcelli, because David Porcelli, of course, was only about 8/10 back coming into the cycle. There you can see Porcelli's coming through the final corner. Van der Sant is off of the lane. Carey yet to roll. Now he's coming, but already tires up to temperature, plenty of momentum. Porcelli takes away net 4th position from Brian Carey.
Yeah, Carey definitely lost out on that trade there, but I do think one thing to consider here, Arjuno, particularly looking at what Adam Blocker and Adriano Pinheiro are doing, is I think a number of these drivers have been taking advantage of the fuel maps here, which we haven't really talked about, but the fuel maps can not only save fuel, but they also save your tires a little bit. So looking at the likes of Adam Blocker and Pinheiro, but also at the likes of Brian Carey, he potentially has the ability, I think, to maybe turn up the fuel just a little bit and maybe show some pace that we haven't yet seen.
Be fascinating to see Blockers in this time around. Surely Pinheiro will follow him in. Does look as though the Brazilian is diving down onto the lane. Crucially in the cycle, by the way, Van der Sant going long, had a lot shorter stop, not because of fuel. I think Adam Crane needed a front wing change. 14 seconds stationary for the car that started on the outside of the front row. It has meant Van der Sant has cycled himself into net 2nd position, as Adriano Pinheiro has gone one more lap here. Incredible.
I don't know where Adriano Pinheiro is getting this fuel from, but I hope that he can make it around as we see a move from Adam Crane on Alexander Van der Sant through the keyhole, side by side on corner exit.
Oh.
Will Van der Sant be able to get the power down, or will it be Crane? Both on the push to pass. Van der Sant has the advantage for now, but Crane back in the draft, Arjuna.
He almost lent on Van der Sant, did Crane, who'll pop himself outside, heading down into China Beach, tucks back in line for now, but this is going to be the fight to watch, and if these two trip over one another, Porcelli, Carey, they're ready to pounce for podium positions. Blocker has actually come out right behind Pinheiro, so that fuel saving, well, it illustrates the dominance that Adam Blocker has had. Now almost 11 seconds clear of net 2nd position. Pinheiro's in this time around. He's made it 27 laps on the fuel. You'll have a lighter car. You'll also have fresher tires come the very end of this race. We'll watch the battle for 2nd. We'll also watch and see where Adriano Pinheiro will come out in comparison to his competitors. Porcelli goes through, Carey goes through. Where is Justin Hess? Where is Will Lyon? There they come. Pinheiro will be at the tail of this train. The question is, how far back will he be? Because it looks like he's further back than he would have wanted. He's fallen behind Piazza as well.
He's fallen behind Piazza, but he has much fresher tires than these other drivers, and there's no way that he was doing that without being in some serious fuel maps saving here, Arjuna. There's no way that you could do 27 laps without being in fuel map 4 or 5 for most of that stint. So Pinheiro is definitely a driver that I think can turn up the wick here on this 2nd stint and really make some forward progress.
But he's put himself in a position where he's got to pass a bunch of cars to work himself up through the field. It's easier said than done. He'll have to try and take the advantage of any mistakes in traction zones that we see from first Piazza, then from Craig, then from Lyon. Back to this battle for 6th on back though. Craig really hounding the rear end of Will Lyon as they throw themselves in through the penultimate corner. Little lift off the throttle, maybe a dab of brakes to rotate the car. Justin Hess looking fairly comfortable now that he's got fresher rubber. Once more, it's Rashad Craig that's looking racy in this group of cars.
Yeah, Rashad Craig is all over the back of Will Lyon right now, and it really looks like Craig is looking for blood here sooner rather than later, but Lion definitely is not necessarily going to just allow that to happen. We saw just how strong Will Lyon was at Spa. He did a really good job. Craig back on the button one more time. He has got to be getting low on push to pass by now, but it looks like he's going to try and down here into China Beach on the inside. What a move from Rashad Craig here.
Just one more usage of the button left for Rashad Craig in the number 14 car. Going to make his life very, very difficult. Left side of the screen, let's show you the push to passes as they run. Blocker has started to use them. We've seen this in the past where he'll save them in stint 1, then go for fastest lap after fastest lap. Speaking of fastest lap, it's almost on cue. So 107.406. The question will be, how much life is left in the tires of the number 1 car to be able to go faster and faster? Because the reality is, given the tire wear that we're seeing right now, not going to be many. Back in this pack though, Will Lyon has done a sterling job of saving them, and he can go on the charge. But he's almost lost the car as he No, I thought for a second he'd hold on to that, but he noses it into the tire barrier. The iRacing gods smile at him and it say, at least you can have the right side of your front wing. The left side is gone.
Such an unfortunate incident from Will Lyon. You were just saying how well he'd done to be where he was while preserving all of the push to passes, and he'd set himself up so well for that final run, but
was he on the curb?
He just gets onto the curb in through turn 1 here. And when you hit that curb, it's really a sharp curb on the inside, and it throws the car sideways here. Right there, you see he just gets on that curb, and it's such a harsh transition there that it almost sucks the car around. And then when you get loose like that, the way that it's been sucked around, you basically have no choice but to nose it into that wall on the inside. But unfortunate incident for Will Lyon. But meanwhile, Brian Carey right back on the back of David Porcelli.
Yep, there's one battle brewing here. Of course, up the road, you have Crane and Van de Sant who will fight over second. 6/10 separates them. 4/10 separates Porcelli and Carey. Now means that with no Will Lyon to it, put the pressure onto Rashad Craig, he can focus somewhat on charging down and passing Justin Hess. Lyon has had to come down to pit road, so there's significant damage to the front wing. At a track like this, you need that ability to turn into the corners with comfort and confidence. Will Lyon will drop outside of the top 15 if he elects to finish this race. Coming over the crest of the hill, though, here comes Brian Carey. Where do you get this done with fresher tires, Andrew? Because coming out of the keyhole, it is easy for the car that's defending to back things up and at least maintain their momentum and get onto the power a little bit smoother to make it hard to charge down into China Beach.
Well, first of all, if I'm Brian Carey, I'm looking at what David Porcelli just did through the S's there and see how wide he took some of those corners and how much sliding he was doing. And I'm just going to have a sly little grin on my face saying that his tires are not going to last very much longer doing that. So if I'm Brian Carey, what I'm trying to do is try to make him do more of that, put as much pressure on the back of David Porcelli as possible, and try and force him to overdrive these corners, overdrive these tires. And then it's exactly at this location here that you're looking for the air. On the exit of the keyhole, it falls away just a little bit, and it basically just the car wants to spin up the tires just ever so slightly. And if the car in front of you does that and you don't have to, you can get such a run down into China Beach here and in through this section of corners here. You definitely can get the move done. So that's what Brian Carey has to do, is put the pressure on, make him use up his tires, and then capitalize on that small mistake.
Watch here as they crest themselves down into the penultimate corner. That's one of the places that in real world racing we've seen cars almost perpendicular to the track, having lit up the rear tires. Sometimes they stall the car as well. We've seen safety cars deployed. No major dramas, at least so far in this race as we approach 10 laps to go. This is the battle for fourth. Battle for second continues to intensify. That gap now down to under 0.3 of a second as Crane and Van de Sant work themselves out of the keyhole, down onto the back straightaway. Push to pass for both of these cars. 7 left for Van de Sant, 2 left for Adam Crane. if Van der Sande can hold on for, 5 or 6 more laps, he's in a position where he has a push-to-pass every single lap to defend down that long straightaway. By the way, on the push-to-pass, Brian Carey tried to get the move done. He's too far behind. Rashad Craig on the button for the final time in today's race. Will go the long way around if he can get it slowed down in time over the crest of the hill. Justin Hess has to give that one up, and Rashad Craig back to 6th position.
What a move that was from Rashad Craig. He used up the last of his push to pass with more than 11 laps to go, so he knew that he needed to make that one stick, and he just about did it. It was a close call there through China Beach, through madness, but he pulled it off, and what a move, and what respect from both of these drivers to allow that racing to happen there. It'll be interesting to see with these push to passes, because Hess only has 3 as well. So it'll be interesting to see with what these 2 drivers, now that they've swapped positions, are able to do. Will Hess be able to keep up with Rashad Craig, or will Rashad Craig, now that he's finally been released from this train, be able to pull up on Brian Carey and David Porcelli?
Remember, Rashad Craig 10 laps into his stint, Justin Hess 11, Piazza's only 9, so might have the opportunity to make one more pass happen to affect that move. Brian Carey is a bit more of a tire advantage compared to Rashad Craig. I think now the question really is, what can Carey do in this battle with Porcelli? He's fallen off very slightly, a car length or 2 lost in the last lap and a half or so. He'll have to do the work again in the blue and white to close onto the number 3 car. Cesar Manzato down onto pit road once more. Not sure what happened to the number 4 machine. That might be a slightly longer stop. Might have had a moment of his own. Because, yeah, normal pit stop. That's 8.7 seconds. Not sure exactly why Manzato came in again. Interesting. The thing that we have to remember as well, there are plenty of cars, Andrew, who were able to do some magic, and you're suspecting it was the fuel map. It will be interesting to talk to the likes of Adam Blocker. You know, fingers crossed, knock on wood, he survives without a commentator's curse to get to the end of this race, about what he was doing, if it was the fuel maps, and why this track in particular was one that benefited from that approach.
Yeah, well, and the other thing about this track is it is one of those tracks where you can very easily do some fuel saving without losing too much time. Oh, as we see a little incident there right in front of the battle between Alexander Van der Sande and Adam Crane.
I don't know if that's actually an incident. I think he was just slowing down to be courteous and to let the lapped car, the leaders lap him there. That was heads-up driving, because that's not an easy place to let that happen.
He does seem to be going very, very slowly. So it's one of those things where, like, in some cases I like when drivers do that, but also in some cases it'll actually throw me off when a car actually pulls over and basically stops on the side of the track, because
being predictable, right?
Yeah, being predictable is one of those things that is very important, and it's also almost an underrated skill for lap cars. If you're just predictable, most of the time the leaders will be able to get around you. I mean, definitely make their lives easier, but like when you get that far off the track, sometimes it's one of those things where it's actually more of a distraction than an actual help sometimes.
I have confirmed as well, it was just him pulling to the side. So courteous driving from Eric Miller in the 22 car. We can discuss about whether it's always
Piazza.
Oh, something's happened to Piazza.
You know, just very close battling here with Piazza and Hess. Piazza was very close to getting a nose in around China Beach, and what has that allowed? It has allowed Pinheiro to really start to close up on this battle.
Have you noticed, Andrew? Have you noticed that despite the fact that Pinheiro went ultra long, he has switched onto the primary black mark tire?
I did not notice that, and that is a very strange call. I'm almost wondering whether he made a mistake in his
the selection
pit
of the
stop
tire
cycle and that could be the reason why he hadn't made more progress to this point in time. But that being said, this is the point in the stint where those primary tires are going to start making a positive difference for him, is really in these last 5 to 7 laps. So the fact that Piazza and Hess are really fighting amongst themselves, that is going to be playing into the advantage of Pinheiro, and he might just have the advantage here as this run comes to its close in these last few laps.
Again, the word and data showed that it was about a 3-second slower tire over the course of 24 laps. Interesting call. I tend to agree with, I think, what you're saying, where it was likely more just a mistake from Adriano Pinheiro going to the black mark tire, because if you're going to go to the black tire, surely you would have come in on lap 21 or something like that and gone long to the end of this race. A reminder of where
or
the track...
you would have started on the black tire
Right.
to go 28 laps like Pinheiro did.
And a reminder as well of what the track conditions are. Hasn't cooled down that much as we've clicked past 3 p.m. in virtual mid-Ohio. 36 degrees on the track itself right now. Porcelli and Carey, both of them on the button, but Carey just a little bit too far behind. He's got one advantage, one push-to-pass advantage compared to David Porcelli. The move might come on the final lap. Both of these drivers for 7th and 8th on the button as well. Piazza out of the draft. Outside line, heading into China Beach. This has happened before. Is it deja vu for Justin Hess as he watches another car slide down his inside? No, he fights this one back, side by side, coming down through the S's. Hess finally has to concede.
Nice driving from both of them once again. I think that this has been some of the best battling. He's been back in this battle with Hess. He's been doing a good job of staying clean and really making these drivers fight for every inch, but at the same time they have been getting slowly by him, and I just think that these tires are just going away from Hess lap by lap, and he's just not able to keep him under him quite as well as the rest of these drivers. But I think what Pinheiro is hoping, now that we're on board with him, is it does look like we've got a lap car in between Hess and Pinheiro right now. Pinheiro's got to be thinking, man, I need some of that cooperation. I need some of that Eric Miller spirit where the car just gets out of the way for me here.
Yeah, I think that's Cesaro Manzato. Piazza's on the button to try and run away from Hess. Brian Carey used that additional push-to-pass advantage that he had to try and close on to David Porcelli. They're now equal, 4 usages left apiece. Next time around, 6 laps to go. Race leader, 16 seconds clear. He is gone. He has said goodbye. Adam Blocker has dominated so far. And all it takes is one mistake here in the Buckeye State. Did David David Porcelli just hung out the rear end, didn't he?
And I will say, Arjuna, isn't it so nice to have a tire where you can do that? And iRacing has done a great job updating this tire model, and it's fantastic to see it at a place like this where you really do need the ability to just have the car step out like that and be able to gather it back up. And David Porcelli, with some really quick hands there, doing everything he can to gather it back up and stay in front of the Canadian right behind him.
That was spectacular. I loved to see that. I remember when I used to drive this car a lot more. It was iRacing somewhat unfairly, given Porcelli locks up the right front heading into China Beach. Opened the door very slightly, but Brian Carey not able to take advantage of that opportunity. But you can tell the tires are falling off for Porcelli. 2 laps further into this run compared to 9 behind him. Those tires a little bit more worn, the pressure starting to build up, and Porcelli 2 mistakes in 2 laps. 1 more mistake, can Brian Carey pounce? Going back to the point though, Andrew, I remember when iRacing somewhat fairly, somewhat unfairly got dubbed as ice racing. That is not the case anymore.
Absolutely not. This is an entirely different tire model from when I started iRacing. What is it? Almost 7 years ago now, Arjuna. It hasn't really been that long. But yeah, it is a completely different tire, completely different car compared to what it was before. So they've done a great job developing this tire, and it's putting on some fantastic racing here tonight.
On the button is Porcelli, gives a bit of an advantage once more to Brian Carey actually we're at 5 laps to go this time around. Adam Blocker well and truly on course for victory. The question is, who will cycle in behind him, who will get valuable championship points? Remember, 2nd in the championship and single digits back from Blocker is his Powerslide teammate Hugo Olsen. Races in Europe, we don't see him much on a Monday night. He'll be getting points throughout the week. Reminder, this is the first race of a new iRacing week. You can jump onto iRacing.com. As long as you've got the requisite license, join the party, join the fun. Races every 2 hours, as long as they go official. Can see on the forum for the times when these races are most likely to go official. Brian Carey just a little bit too far behind this time. That gap now 0.8 of a second. I think that was nice timing from Porcelli to build the advantage heading into the dying stages.
Yeah, I think it was definitely important for him to get a little bit of a breathing room. But the flip side of that, of course, Arjuna, is that he did give away his advantage one more time to Brian Carey. So Carey now, I believe, does have one more push to pass compared to Porcelli. So those will come into play, and it'll be interesting to see whether Carey can keep his tires underneath him just long enough to be able to get close enough to in these next few laps to really make a difference here.
Neither car on the button this time around. Brian Carey restrains himself, and there are tools as well. I know Brian Carey races in virtual reality, so he might not have the benefit of the tools, but for those who race on monitors, whether it be a single, a regular screen, an ultra-wide, or even a triple monitor configuration, there are tools that will let you see the push-to-pass usage of the drivers around you. Helps you strategize just that little bit more. Battle between Justin Hess and Pinheiro closing as well as they come out of Thunder Valley in towards the penultimate couple of corners. 4/10 back. Did we miss the pass? No, we saw Danilo Piazza get through. Sorry, I forgot that fantastic move through the S's. Pinheiro, again, I'm going to go back to what I said. The call to stay out so long, compounded by the fact that he was on the black tire, it's just not worked the way that one would have hoped.
No, it definitely wasn't the ideal scenario for Pinheiro, but I do think that he has done just enough to potentially get by Hess here, because it really does seem like, especially through the back section of this course, that he's... Oh.
Yeah, it was okay. I thought for a moment he was going to go wide and dump himself into the gravel. This battle for second heating up as well. It will be two laps to
Pinheiro.
go. Pinheiro's battling as well, fighting up and down through the field. Will Carey get in on the front?
Hess went wide there, and through the S's. Pinheiro on the outside. He's going to be on the inside for this next corner. Will he be able to make it stick? These two are battling really tight here, and Hess just is able to hang on to it there.
He's got the grip. He's got the purchase. Needs bravery, because Justin Hess will not relinquish 8th place without a fight. Lorenzo Bonder joining the fun as well. Don't count out RaceSpot's own. 2 laps to go for these drivers this time around. Out front, Blocker now 19 seconds clear. Van der Sat has 6 push-to-passes to Crane's 1. You would think that second place is in the books for the resident of Atlanta, Georgia. He burns through those passes, those bursts of power trying to hold on. Carey's now 9/10 back from Porcelli, just a little bit too far behind. The cloud cover has moved. Bright sunshine back onto the track here. Down the back straightaway, Justin Hess once more slides that car.
Yeah, and this could be the opportunity that Pinheiro needs. He's on the button. Hess is not on the button. On the outside, Pinheiro's got to make it stick around the outside. Deep on the brakes from both of them. Pinheiro locks up just a little bit, not able to make the move stick.
Yeah, and I think Hess kind of squeezed him on entry, which he's well within his rights to do, but just spooked Pinheiro into braking deep and locking up that inside front, has brought Lorenzo Bonder into the mix as well. 3 push-to-passes for Pinheiro, 4 for Lorenzo Bonder. White flag in the air. Adam Blocker has crossed the start-finish line for the penultimate time today in what has been a dominant showing for the defending champion and the 4-time Lionheart champion as well. We'll stick with this battle, at least for the time being, because down this back straightaway, I think Pinheiro will get the job this time around.
Yeah, he's got to take advantage of it. I would burn a push to pass right here as well if I'm Pinheiro, and he does. So he's got to get as close as he possibly can through this keyhole section. This is going to be a key for both Justin Hess and Adriano Pinheiro. They've got to get as good an exit here as they possibly can. Hess gets an exit, but it looks like Pinheiro's on the button here coming into China Beach.
Meanwhile, Adam Blocker comes through the final corner to win round 5 of the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. Meanwhile, Adriano Pinheiro has mugged Justin Hess, but almost runs himself into the grass. He just about holds on. They'll be side by side once more, heading down into the S's section. Nothing doing, at least for the time being. I don't think this battle is completely done, but heading into Thunder Valley, Justin Hess clears himself off. What a drive from Adam Blocker. We barely paid attention to him over the course of 45 laps, 19 seconds clear of the field. He wins here in Mid-Ohio. His teammate Alexander Van der Sat comes across the line in second, with Adam Crane rounding out the podium positions. Justin Hess will just about hold on there, but for Adriano Pinheiro, Andrew, he had the move done if he hadn't run too deep into China Beach.
Just a small mistake allowed Hess all he needed to get back around Pinheiro, but I agree with you. Pinheiro had the move done, he just didn't quite execute it. But today, the domination from Adam Blocker, we barely talked about him because he was so far out in front. He just dominated this race today, Arjuna. And I will say, what a drive from Alexander Van de Sant to keep Adam Crane behind him throughout that entire second stint. Did exactly what he needed to do to come away with the second spot on the podium. And Adam Crane, we've seen he hasn't quite had the pace at some of the road courses so far this year. I'd say that the satellite motorsport driver is back on the scene with a vengeance.
Yeah, we haven't actually seen him too much over the course of the season so far. Did win this championship a couple of seasons ago. Remember, a season is 12 weeks here in iRacing. Adam Blocker begins the burnouts, begins the celebrations. Here are your race results. Round 5 is in the books, and Adam Blocker wins once more. It's a power slide 1 and 2, but 20 seconds back for Alexander Van de Sant. It was the Blocker show here today. Adam Crane completes the podium with David Porcelli. Great try from him. Plenty of great overtakes for the number 3 car, 3 positions gained for him. Brian Carey will round out the top 5 with Rashad Craig in 6th. Plenty of bold moves for Craig. If he hadn't struggled in the first 2 laps of the race and slid his way back, what could have been for Rashad Craig, the 14 car. Danilo Piazza, great try from him to finish in 7th, with Justin Hess holding on to the line against Adriano Pinheiro, while Lorenzo Bonda, RaceSpot's own, complete the top 10. Robert Malechko went off the track in the first stint of the race, but recovers nicely to finish in 11th, getting some decent championship points under his belt. Doriano Ricciuti 12th, with Nico Java spun through the corkscrew on lap number 1, managed to recover 13th position, 5 places gained. Great recovery drive for him. Andrew Marquez 14th. Will Lyne, unfortunate victim of the curb on the inside of turn 1, slides his way back into 15th. The first car 1 lap down. Andrew Wood, Robin Glennick, Cesar Manzato, Eric Miller, and AJ Musselman, the rest of the cars that finished today's race, while in the garage, Arturo Amaro, Mitchell Welker round out the 22 starters here at Mid-Ohio. Fun race, and once more, the iRacing IndyCar Championship, Open Championship, puts on a show. We're still waiting for your winner to join us for a post-race interview, so let's quickly talk about what is in store for us as we reach the halfway marker of this championship. Next up, Homestead, Miami, a track that plenty of IndyCar fans, Andrew, want to see on the real-world schedule.
And count me as one of those fans. This is my favorite track in an IndyCar on iRacing. The progressive banking is just so much fun to drive. You have so many different line options, and it just always seems to produce good racing. So I can't wait to see what these cars in the virtual world does here in 1 week's time. But count me as one of the drivers who definitely wants IndyCar to come back in the real world as well.
Well, we'll get the opportunity now to dial up your race winner. In a dominant display, Adam Blocker took the victory in round 5 of this IndyCar iRacing Open Championship. Adam, talk to us about that race. Seemed like it was somewhat lonely for you.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I just love Mid-Ohio. I put together a pretty solid Q-lap, kind of scrappy, but overall pretty close to the maximum I could do. And I knew the first part of the race would be tough because I think Adam had good short run pace. And yeah, turn 1, lap 1 was a lot of understeer on cold tires with the short pace lap here, so that was fun. But yeah, once I kind of got 2 seconds free and I kind of saw him dropping back, and I knew with these tires, if you step over the limit, you really start to degrade a lot. But if you keep them under control, they actually come back to you a little bit at the end. So I was able to just keep them under control, and I think I made up a lot of time at the end of the stints, and that was kind of the key to it.
Question I have for you, were you ever thinking about the Black Mark primary tire? We saw 1 or 2 drivers take it in the race here today. The delta, from what we understood, was about 3 seconds over the course of the stint, slower for the Blacks, but it just gave you a bit more purchase, less to worry about with those tires wearing out.
Honestly, for me, it wasn't too bad to manage the reds, so I never really considered it. We of course tested it, but they were just so slow here. Especially the weather we got for this session was pretty cold, so for me it was not even an option in the race.
Well, next week it's Homestead Miami. Andrew and I were talking about how this is the track that many a fan would love to see in a real-world competition. What are you expecting, though, when we go racing under the bright lights in the Sunshine State?
Yeah, hopefully racing at night will give enough grip for passing and everything to happen, which I think will happen. The Lionheart race we had there was really good at night, so hopefully with open setup it'll be the same. Normally I'm not great qualifying there, but normally I can race my way to the front, so looking forward to a good race there.
Congratulations on the win, Adam. Looking forward to seeing you in 7 days' time.
Yep, thanks. See you then.
So that was Adam Blocker, and making it a Powerslide Motorsports 1 and 2, Alexander Van der Sant continues an impressive start to the season. And Alex, talk to us about that battle with Adam Crane in the second stint. He required a front wing change, put you in front, and gave you plenty of challenges to overcome to the checkered flag.
Yeah, that was intense. The first 2 laps, tires just weren't up to temp, like going into turn 1, so he was able to get that run on me, and I don't know how I hung it around on the outside, but I just got it, and he did not let me go. He totally kept me honest the rest of the run. I knew he was probably faster than us in the short run based on the first stint's pace and times and how he was able to pull away, but I knew if I could at least get him to use his tires up a bit more, I could exacerbate that advantage that I'd have towards the end of the race. But in the end, just kept him behind, and actually forgot about using push to pass until the last 2 or 3 laps, but still got it. So yeah, really proud of that run.
That explains why you had 7 push-to-passes left to go with a couple of laps left in the race. Talk to us about the start to the season. We're almost at the halfway point. You're up there in the championship mix, and it's one where, Powerslide has enjoyed some great results. You've been consistent over the 5 races so far as well.
I have, and I think this actually gives me second in the points, but Hugo's not far away either, so we need to see what he does this week. But really good results this season so far. I knew I would need to step it up and improve a lot on the road courses, and honestly I wasn't expecting to be the P2 Powerslide driver for this race, but I just nailed the qualifying, and then in the race I just got into that rhythm that I've got it. I get that rhythm sometimes. I just need to be able to get it every race now, and so hopefully that this is a good step forward.
And compare the 3 tracks that we've had so far: Road America, Spa, Mid-Ohio. Which one's your favorite? I know you've done a lot of laps on some of the ovals, Iowa especially. Just finished up the Open Week and the Indy Elite Series race there, some 4,000 odd laps. Which one have you enjoyed from the road courses so far, though?
I think I've enjoyed Mid-Ohio the most. It's sort of my home track. I was born in Ohio and spent the first few years of my life there, so I've been there so much in real life, and driving into the sim is always a blast. For this race, I definitely was the most comfortable coming into it, and then even through the whole race. So Spa and Road America were great, but I just couldn't get that the same level of comfort that I had today.
Well, solid start for you to the season, and still plenty of racing to go. Congratulations on second. We'll see you in 7 days' time from Homestead, Miami.
Thanks, Arjuna.
So that was Alexander Van der Sant, who fought all the way to the end with Adam Crane. Adam, great to have you back on a Monday night. We've not seen you as regularly as maybe we would have hoped, but what happened there? Where did you get the damage? Because as far as we understand, you needed a front wing change in that one and only cycle of pit stops.
Yeah, that was really unfortunate to have to get the front wing repair. I believe it was actually lap 1 or 2. So I went the whole first stint with the front wing damage, which was painful. Didn't think that I had front wing damage until obviously pulled into the box and it showed me the 5-second further repair. After that, it was just about, I think I had about 2 or 3 laps before Alex made his stop, so I was pushing like crazy trying to get the tires up to temp and make up the 5-second gap that I had. Well, what ended up being, I think about 2.5 seconds was my gap when I made the stop. So yeah, trying hard as I could. Had a little battle there with Alex just as he was leaving the pits. That was probably my best opportunity. It's just so hard to pass here, and with his fresher tires and I got 7 push to pass, it was going to be a tough ask for me to get around him. But fair play to him and Blocker, who obviously aced the field today again.
He seemed like he was just on another track, maybe some different track conditions as well. I do want to follow up on what you just said. I had mentioned during the race there are tools that let you monitor other cars and their push-to-pass numbers and statuses. Were you taking advantage of that? Was that helping you plan out where you wanted to try and make passes happen?
I had no idea. I don't use any kind of third-party software to let me see what other people have for push-to-pass. So I was just really hoping that he had been using his. I honestly didn't expect him to sort of forgotten about using them, but considering the battle that him and I were having, it's understandable that in a tense fight like that, you sort of lose your bearings a little bit. I mean, those are the kind of fights that you love having at a track like this, in a car like this. So yeah, fair play to him, and yeah, it's always good fun racing against competent people who know what they're doing in as far as racecraft goes.
It almost sounds like you're talking about the race that you didn't get to have this past Saturday.
Kinda, yeah.
So let's talk about what you've been doing outside of IndyCar. Of course, Sports Car Open this past Saturday was meant to be the 6 hours of the Red Bull Ring, but lap number 1 up the hill into, I'm not going to call it turn 3, it is turn 2. It just went wrong for you. It wasn't your fault. It wasn't necessarily anyone's fault. It was just, you can't go 3-4 wide coming out of that corner on lap 1 and expect it to go well.
Yeah, that corner turn 3 at Red Bull Ring is a tough one. I mean, it'd be difficult under normal conditions if the track were completely flat to get 3 people through that corner. But then once you include the banking and how it gets off camber on the exit, and it's sort of unsighted on the inside, it's really hard. So I mean, you can't really blame anyone for doing that. It's just the sandwich job racing thing. And yeah, I mean, the last couple races of the Sports Car Open have sort of been that, with contact at Coda that gave us a whack load of required repairs, and then Saturday at the Red Bull Ring too. So a little bit of a hard luck for the satellite racing LMP2 cars in SEO, but we'll keep fighting and see how we can't grab some more points and good positions for the rest of the season.
Well, I can tell you, when I was competing in SEO, my experience was basically like your Red Bull Ring experience. So don't worry, I understand where you're coming from. I commiserate with you, and hopefully the second half of that season goes well. Congratulations on P3. Hopefully we see you plenty more Mondays over the next 7 weeks.
Should do. Thanks a lot, guys.
That's our final post-race interview here. And Andrew, maybe not as much passing as we saw at Spa or Road America. Such a technical track, though, and one that, talking to the drivers just now, I get the sense that they love it, even though it poses that challenge of making it difficult to pass.
Yeah, maybe not necessarily a lot of passing, but definitely a lot of battling throughout the field here today, Arjuna. A little bit of strategy as well. And I think that we've proven with this car over the different tracks that we've been to so far this year that no matter what type of track, no matter what the combination is, this Indy car can really put on a good race on these Monday nights. So definitely was a good race here today, and looking forward to what's going to happen here in 1 week's time at Homestead.
Brings us nicely to a little bit of a preview. Talk to us about the setup challenges for the drivers. Talk to us about the different lines that we may be seeing. Adam talked about the great race that Lionheart had to kick off their 2021 season. You were the man behind that setup.
Yeah, so what you have at Homestead is you have this sort of variable banking where at the bottom of the track it's a little bit flatter, and at the top of the track it's a little bit more steeper banked. And what it does is it produces a couple of seams on the track that you can really use to hook up and rotate the car. But at the same time, as a setup maker, if you have too much rotation in the car, it can very easily turn into disaster on the exits of turn 2 and turn 4. So it's very much a balancing act when you're setting up this car to make sure that you have enough rotation to get through the corner well, but not too much rotation that you lose it on the corner exit. So definitely a challenge, but it should also be a really good race.
So that's 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, same time, same place, live on RaceSpotTV. Make sure you join us for round 6 as we reach the halfway marker of this 2022 Season 1 campaign. A reminder as well, you can follow along with all things RaceSpotTV by joining us on social media at RaceSpotTV across all the social platforms. Hit that red button on YouTube, hit the bell next to it to get notified every time we go live with a great sim racing series that we get to cover. It's a busy, busy January. plenty of exciting things on the horizon across of the iRacing service. For now, though, it is time to say goodbye from the virtual Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. On behalf of our partners at ATVO, our powering our timing and graphic software for today's event. For Dougie Beers providing our fantastic track and car cameras across of today's entertainment. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, delighted to be joined by Andrew Kinsella for today's action. We'll see you in 7 days' time from the Sunshine State. Until then, so long and goodbye.
I want it now.